You sleep 7, maybe even 8 hours a night. You wake up and within an hour, you're already tired. By the afternoon, you're reaching for another cup of coffee. You try to eat healthier, you exercise, maybe you've even had blood work done, and the doctor tells you everything looks normal, but you don't feel normal. You feel like you're running on empty. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people are exhausted despite doing everything they're told is supposed to improve their energy. And where most explanations begin, they tell you to sleep more, reduce stress, take another supplement, check another hormone. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? What if being tired isn't simply a sign that your body isn't making enough energy? What if your body is producing plenty of energy, but something is preventing that energy from getting where it actually is needed? Because here's something most people never think about. Making energy and using energy are not the same thing. And once you understand the difference, you may never think about fatigue the same way again. Let's think about this differently. Most of us have been taught about fatigue in a very simple way. If you're tired, you must not be making enough energy. It seems logical. So we look for ways to make more sleep, more caffeine, more supplements, more vitamins, more stimulation. The entire conversation becomes focused on increasing energy production. But here's where it gets interesting. Imagine a city with a massive power plant producing all the electricity the city could ever need. Now imagine that the power lines are damaged. Some neighborhoods receive plenty of electricity, others barely receive any at all. Would building an even bigger power plant solve the problem? Probably not. The problem isn't production, the problem is delivery. The same idea applies to almost every delivery system we depend on. An online store can have a full warehouse of products, but if delivery trucks never arrive at the house, it doesn't matter how full the warehouse is. Production alone isn't enough. Delivery matters. Now let's think about your body. Your body is constantly producing energy from food you eat and the oxygen that you breathe. But that energy doesn't magically appear inside every cell. It has to move through an incredibly coordinated delivery system. And if that system begins to slow down or become less efficient, your cells may struggle to receive everything they need to function at their best. That doesn't automatically mean that this is the cause of every person's fatigue. Many different medical conditions can contribute to feeling tired, and persistent or severe fatigue deserves proper medical evaluation. But it does raise an important question that most people never ask. What if the real question is, how does energy actually get from the air you breathe and the food you eat all the way to the trillions of cells that depend on it every second? Because once you can answer that question, the entire picture starts to change. So let's answer that question. How does energy actually get from the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe to the cells that keep you alive? I think most people picture energy as something that's simply made inside of the body, almost like filling up the gas tank in your car. But your body doesn't work that way. Your body is more like an entire city. Every second, every day, trillions of cells are working. Your brain is processing information, your heart is beating, your muscles are repairing themselves, your immune system is constantly monitoring for threats. Every one of those cells needs a continuous supply of oxygen and nutrients. Not just after a meal, every second. Your body as an energy producing machine. Think about it as an energy delivery system. So imagine placing a package on your front porch. Getting that package to its destination requires an entire network. It has to leave the warehouse, travel on major highways, exit on smaller roads, navigate neighborhood streets, and finally arrive at the correct house. If something goes wrong anywhere along the journey, the delivery is delayed, even if the warehouse is completely full. Your body works in a remarkably similar way. Food provides raw materials. Oxygen provides another essential ingredient, but those resources still have to travel through an incredibly organized delivery network before your cells can use them to produce the energy that powers life. And here's what makes this so fascinating. Most conversations about fatigue focus almost entirely on the warehouse. Are you eating enough? Are you getting enough vitamins? Are you making enough energy? But very few people stop to ask an equally important question: how well is the delivery network actually working? Because if delivery begins to break down, the cells don't care how full the warehouse is, and they only care about what actually arrives. And that's where the story really begins, because the first stop in that delivery network is something we usually take completely for granted. So let's start with the first part of that delivery system, your circulation. Most of us think blood vessels as nothing more than pipes. Blood goes around, oxygen goes with it, end of story. But that's only part of the story. Your circulation system isn't designed simply to keep blood moving. It's designed to deliver exactly what your cells need, exactly where they need it. So imagine a fleet of delivery trucks driving across the country. Driving isn't the goal, making deliveries is. A truck that spends all day on the highway but never reaches a neighborhood hasn't accomplished its job. The same is true inside your body. Your heart pumps blood through large arteries that branch into smaller and smaller vessels. Eventually, those vessels become microscopic capillaries. Those capillaries are incredibly small. In many cases, red blood cells have to even squeeze through them one at a time. And that's by design, because this is where the real exchange happens. This is where oxygen leaves the bloodstream, where nutrients move into tissues, where waste products move back into the blood to be carried away. This is where your cells receive the raw materials they need to survive. So think about that for a moment. Your heart can pump perfectly. Your lungs can fill your blood with oxygen. Your blood tests can even show completely normal oxygen levels. But none of that guarantees your cells are receiving what they need, because the story isn't complete until delivery is made. And that's a completely different way of thinking about circulation. It's not simply about movement. It's about successful delivery. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Even when oxygen reaches those tiny capillaries, there's still one more critical step before oxygen has to leave the blood. And that process is far more dynamic than people realize. So we've made it all the way to the capillaries. Blood has arrived, the oxygen is there. You might think the job is finished, but it isn't, because oxygen still has one more journey to make. It has to leave the red blood cell, This is one of the most overlooked parts of human physiology. Most people think oxygen simply jumps out of the blood the moment it reaches your tissues, but your body doesn't work that way. Blood cells don't just carry oxygen, they hold on to it. And they only release it when the local environment tells them it's needed. Think of it like a delivery driver. Arriving at your street doesn't complete the delivery. The package has to come off the truck, and only then has the delivery actually been made. The same thing happens inside your body. Your red blood cells are constantly making thousands of tiny decisions. Should I keep carrying this oxygen, or is this the place where it needs to be released? That decision is influenced by the environment surrounding your tissues. Active tissues create a different chemical environment than resting tissues. They produce more carbon dioxide. They become slightly more acidic. Their temperature often increases. These changes signal that cells are actively working and need more oxygen. So in response, hemoglobin, the protein inside the red blood cells that carry oxygen, become more willing to let go of it. This well-established physiological response is known as the Bohr Effect. It's one of the ways your body matches oxygen delivery to where it's needed most. Now imagine what that means. Having oxygen in your bloodstream doesn't automatically mean your cells are receiving all the oxygen they need. Those are two different things. And once oxygen leaves the blood, the cell has to take that oxygen in, combine it with nutrients, and finally convert it into usable energy. Only then can your body do the work that it keeps you alive. And that's where the story takes another fascinating turn, because even if delivery reaches the front door, the cells still has to know what to do with it. So what helps create the conditions that allow oxygen to be released where your cells actually need it? This is where your body reveals just how intelligent its design really is. Remember, your goal isn't simply move oxygen. Your goal is to deliver oxygen. That means your body is constantly asking two questions. Where is blood needed? And where is oxygen needed most? To answer those questions, it relies on a network of signals that are changing from one moment to the next. Most of us were taught to think of carbon dioxide as nothing more than just a waste gas, something your body is trying to get rid of, but that's only part of the story. Carbon dioxide is also part of the communication system that helps regulate delivery. As your cells work, they naturally produce more carbon dioxide. That increase helps signal that this tissue is active. It helps create the conditions that encourage oxygen to be released from the hemoglobin through the Bohr effect we just talked about. At the same time, carbon dioxide also plays an important role in helping regulate blood flow. The inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, is constantly sensing what's happening in the surrounding tissue. It's not just a passive lining, it's an active control center. It helps coordinate when blood vessels relax, when they narrow, how blood is distributed throughout the body. So the goal is always the same: deliver the right amount of blood to the right place at the right time. When you begin to look at the body this way, something becomes obvious. Energy isn't simply about how much oxygen you're breathing. It's about whether oxygen is being delivered, released, and made available where your cells are actually needing it. That's a much more dynamic process than most people realize. Even after all of that, the journey still isn't over, because once oxygen finally enters the cell has to convert those delivered resources into energy that powers every heartbeat, every thought, every moment you make.